Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay podcast, your weekly podcast. We get together to discuss all the news, rumors, and discussions going on in the video game world. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. This week, there's not a huge amount of stuff going on, but we got a couple quick news cycles to go through and talk about. We also have a list of games we think you should be checking out on PlayStation Plus Extra, as well as a untimely review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. If you like what you hear and you want to see our lovely faces while we do that, you could check us out on YouTube or Spotify, where we post a video of this podcast. Alternatively, if you just want to hear our sultry voices, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. By searching for PixelPlay Podcast. Adam, with that being said, let's get into it. I have some news for you, sir. I am diving into the Elden Ring fiasco.
What's the death count?
So far, 0. I haven't installed the game yet. I literally just got it.
So you haven't started?
I've got it. I procured it. That's a key step in getting started.
Well, I suppose it's the easiest step of Elden Ring.
Yeah, so I didn't buy the game. I'm not that brave to commit to actually putting my money into this. I just got a copy from the local library. Once again, as always, I'm going to put my socialist plug. Support your local library and go get video games there. They sell some. They don't sell them. They give them away for free. So I'm going to be getting into that. I have this game for a week, and I'm going to give Elden Ring a shot for a week. See how it goes, and if I'm going to go and actually buy a copy, or if I can't do it, we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of nervous. I've been looking at a bunch of videos. I think I'm going to go either Vagabond or Samurai for this one. If you guys have been playing Elden Ring, let me know what I should be doing as a From Software noob who's never played.
They're going to give you all the worst ideas.
Oh, yeah. Please, anything would help. I have no idea what I'm getting into. So, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Or if you want to reach out to us, you can check us out on the Discord or go through Twitter. Let me know any tips I need to know so I can get through Elden Ring.
I'm at the point that because of PlayStation Extra giving us Demon Souls remake, I know at some point I'm going to have to live stream myself playing it, and I am afraid of my chat, especially with a certain group of friends that I have from the Final Fantasy community that I run the randomizer of. Oh, they will light my ass up. I cannot wait, and also am dreading that first stream.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited. Elden Ring has just been getting so much, I don't think I've ever seen a FromSoft game get this much love.
No, it definitely showed that it's no longer a niche now.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see if I can get into this. I've never played a game like this. I'd say the closest games I
was going to say, have you never played any of the Soulsborne games?
I tried Sekiro, and it didn't click with me. And I tried Lords of the Fallen, and that was just, I think, a bad way to start.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think the toughest things I've done in a game, I beat the Valkyries in God of War, which isn't nothing, but I mean, it's not a whole game of that. So
yeah, the Valkyries are like normal enemies in an Elden Ring game, so.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I've been told that Vagabond and Samurais are the way to kind of start. Those are the entry level characters. So
I mean, they might be, but if you can't control or react to enemies well enough, doesn't really matter, I guess, what you pick. So yeah, I guess we'll find out in 7 days, won't we?
I've got no skin in the game. So yeah, this time next week, ladies and gentlemen, I'll let you know if Elden Ring has put its grasp into me, or if
We know it won't be an untimely review because you ain't finishing it, probably.
No, this is not getting done anytime
soon. If you at least get past the first main boss, then that's progress for you. That's success at that point.
Yeah. Well, the thing I kind of find, I think that's going to be good for me with Elden Ring is the open world aspect. So I can kind of go do the typical South Park, go grind and kill a bunch of sheep to level up my character or something like that.
As long as you don't die.
I mean, how aggressive can sheep be in a FromSoft game?
Well, I'm just saying, you die once, you got to go collect the souls back, and then you got to do it again.
Yeah.
So be careful.
We'll see what happens there.
It's dangerous.
We'll see what happens there. It is dangerous out there. Adam, let's jump into the news. We don't have a lot, and we have.
I was going to say we have stuff. I don't know if it's news, but we have stuff.
Yeah, we've got some stuff to get through. We're just gonna fly through some of these smaller news stories. So there was the Final Fantasy event that we covered last week. You guys covered it on Cartridges and Quarters. Check it out every Saturday morning with Chris and Adam as they talk about retro gaming. But Adam, they announced that they are making the Final Fantasy Remake Part 2, which is going to be called Final Fantasy Rebirth, and it is going to be released in the winter of 2023. So not this winter, but next winter. You being the JRPG Final Fantasy person, I never beating it. What did you think of the press event, and like what? Because they're not going with the open world like they did for the original Final Fantasy VII. This is going to be a more linear.
We're assuming anyway.
It'd be kind of weird to make an open world. I mean,
they've done Final Fantasy 15, so it's possible. But
yeah,
it really depends. Like, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, given what Midgar was in the first remake, it makes sense that it will probably be like bits and pieces. Like, there'll just be levels. It won't be just a flat out open world like, say, what 15 does. That would be my guess. I get the feeling that the way that they're going to do part 2 is going to be more along the lines of cutscene leads you to the next major area, and here's this. And if you want to go back to the other place, which I'd be surprised if they even do that, because normally you don't get to go to some places after. But like, they might go the route of, well, if you want to just go back, here's a bus. Like, here's our quick travel thing, you know?
Yeah. Do sort of like an open world level, kind of like they do with like Tomb Raider kind of thing, like open area.
Yeah, it'll probably just be a series of open levels, some bigger than others, obviously, but we'll definitely see. I'm excited.
So my question is, because I think this is a 3-part series, where do you think this one is going to? What story beats do you think this part is going to cover, and where do you think they end it? Spoilers for a game that is like 20 some odd years old and also not out yet. So.
We discussed this on the Saturday show. Chris remembers more of the original story than I do because he played the original recently, like within the last couple of years.
Just steal his opinions. He's not here.
Well, that's what I'm about to do. So he mentioned the Northern Crater might be a very likely area for it to end off. I'm trying to remember where even the second disc ended in the original game, but it seems like they're kind of like leaning into. Probably that sounds like the next big, like, real major event that would lead to another stoppage. But the thing is now, honestly, we may have no idea where it ends because it may be something that doesn't exist in the original. Because without spoiling anything for those who don't know, the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake makes it very clear that we're not following the same canon anymore. So we're almost playing like, you know, Avengers has the multiverse. This is becoming a Final Fantasy VII multiverse. Like, it is not the same timeline anymore. Things are different. Things are intertwined now. So nothing is guaranteed anymore other than maybe like the locations and the characters, and there's still going to be new characters brought in because we saw some smaller NPCs get brought in to flesh out the story more. And obviously characters didn't get a lot of screen time. They'll get more time. So to say when it is going to end in part 2 is difficult because even with knowing like what's coming in the original canon, that may not exist anymore. So it's really like, if I was to guess, I kind of agree with Chris. It probably would be the Northern Crater. It would be like a rough patch for it. But I have no goddamn idea. And I think that's why I'm really excited for the game, because it's like when you go and watch Return of the Sith, or no, Revenge of the Sith for Star Wars. You basically know what you're walking into in that movie because you know between 2 and 4 roughly what happens. You're just not sure exactly how. Whereas with this next part of the 7 remake, while I have an idea what's supposed to happen, it doesn't seem like it's going to anymore. So I'm sitting there being like, is Aerith even going to die here? I went on a limb and saying I think they might even pull a fast one and flip the script. I think Tifa might be the one to kick the bucket in this game. Like, nothing's off the table anymore. So overall, I think that's a big selling point now, at least for me. I know a lot of fans in the community don't like this because they wanted the original story, but just modern day graphics with the way things are now. And I get that too. But I also look at it from the other aspect of at least you have the original to play if you want it. This is now a way to enjoy the game that you love and not just immediately knowing, oh, but this happens and this happens and this happens. Like, now there's still a bit of like unsurety. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but just the inability to actually know what you're going to do next. And I think that's why I like this more now. I think that's also why I like it a lot more than the original, because A, it's fleshed out better, and also I'm going in without knowing that Sephiroth's going to come in and shank a bitch, you know?
Fair enough. Yeah. it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
I'm also disappointed though that they decided they only wanted to put the first part on Steam and they're still not putting it on Xbox or Switch still.
Told you, Square Enix is going to be bought by PlayStation.
Well, and I even said that during the stream because we live streamed that 10-minute presentation where I said, man, this might actually lead more credence to the rumor that Sony was looking into buying them.
You heard it here first, folks. Adam, next quickie story we're going to go through is coming from Video Game 24/7. This is from Connor Makar. Cyberpunk 2077 sees a 600% sales spike following next-gen update in spite of tarnished reputation. So this is coming from a quarters or an earnings report that did. So the conference, which is available in its entirety, portrays an re-emergence of Cyberpunk 2077's popularity among those in possession of next-gen hardware. This presentation shows that a staggering 600% increase in the sales in Q1 of 2022 compared to previous periods. What's especially interesting is that you can see from the breakdown that PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X sales, and it looks as though it's fairly balanced between the two platforms. Whereas before the patch, PC players held the crown for the most sales, likely because it was the platform where relative stability performances were possible. There's clear growth in both PS5 and Xbox Series X, and it looks as though most of the growth has been in the PlayStation community. Xbox, though, is a sizable portion as well, but PC seems stable. So I'm curious, Adam, does this surprise you to see Cyberpunk have a 600% increase after the 1.5 patch?
Not really, honestly, because I think a lot of us, myself included, were just waiting for the next gen because we wanted to know that it was at least going to be better patched. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's necessarily like a hype that got added to it. I think it came to that point that people were like, all right, it's been long enough. They've probably made it good now. I still want to play this game because I did spend 5 years looking forward to it. And obviously, you know, with other people saying that, yeah, it is actually running a lot smoother now. Yeah, they've done some stuff here to kind of balance things out and everything's patched up a lot nicer. I think people were just like, well, screw it. It's $40, $30, whatever it may be at the time that they looked at it. You know what? It's time now. And I think that makes perfect sense. Like, I think a lot of people, I wouldn't even be surprised if I was even to like put a rough number, I would say that more than half of that 600% were people that got it at launch and returned it. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's the case.
Well, I think I said at the beginning of the year, like, this game was going to have a resurgence in 2022. I played this last year, I think on patch 1.3, I think. And it, like, don't get me wrong, it had faults. It was buggy mess, but like beneath that, it's a solid game and it's a really good story and it's a really unique environment that we don't see very often, especially for Cyberpunk. So I think seeing that it has had a patch fix, it had basically an overhaul in terms of the game mechanics, like the levels and the skills and stuff have been changed. This is a game that is a good game. It came out, it was a good game that was poorly optimized and not performing well. But that's not to say, like, I don't think anyone ever complained that the game was boring or that it wasn't good. Is it as like RPG as The Witcher? I don't think so, but it was still a good game. And now that it's working, the patch is free and that you can get that 5-hour demo, like, it's showing some promise that there's some belief in that they are supporting that and that this game, I'm not going to be surprised when we see lots of DLC or if we see a second version of this game, like a sequel to this game. It is surprising to see that there are more PlayStation sales in this game versus the Xbox series, considering it almost seemed like CD Projekt Red had a partnership with Xbox for this game, and it's PlayStation that's showing a larger growth.
I mean, you could argue just there's more users right now. I think they're up like 5 million users on PS5.
Yeah. Well,
so you could chalk it up to that, not to mention Xbox has Game Pass, so they're probably diverting a few more eyes away.
True. That's a very
because I don't think Cyberpunk was on Game Pass, so
I don't think it was. No. So yeah, and you bring up the last topic here that we have is we've got some sales numbers for consoles, and this is coming from VG Charts, William D'Angelo, and so long and short of it, we've got sales numbers up to and including, I believe, the week ending June 13th. So last weekend, roughly. So the sales numbers as we see, so global hardware sales, Switch sold 279,000 units with a total sales of 108,982,000. Second was PlayStation 5, we had 144,664. followed by, and with a lifetime sales so far of 20,330,000. And then Xbox Series X and S also selling 144,250 with a total sales of 15,228,000. 100,000. Adam, do these sales numbers surprise you? I mean, Xbox and PlayStation seem to be almost having equal sales. Like, I mean, they are literally 400 units difference between the two of them. What does this tell you?
It's crazy to think about, right?
Right?
Because, like, I guess it's actually not really that surprising, because is there really, like, someone who's over the edge right now? Like, I'm sure you'll see gamers be like, well, Game Pass is the best deal. I'm like, yeah, but what games do they have? And then people will be like, well, PlayStation 5's got the best games. I'm like, yeah, but you could argue the value's not really there. So I think it really goes both ways, that, like, neither of them right now are shining above. Switch, I think, is, because I think Switch is over 100 million units sold now.
Switch has like 140,000.
Like, it might pass PlayStation 4 at this rate. So, like, they're doing it right, although I think a large part of it just has to do with the fact that it's cheap, and it's basically like taking a handheld gaming console anyway. So I'm sure there's that extra audience that it's selling to.
Well,
also, they've had time.
I was going to say, there's a couple things here to break down, and I disagree with you. I mean, this is the PlayStation fanboy coming out at me, but, like, one thing that I'm going to mention, I'll start with the Switch. I think the Switch is just a console that naturally lends itself to high sales. One, it's a family console, so you've got, like, a lot of moms and dads, grandparents and stuff buying these for their kids. Second, it's a handheld console similar to a Game Boy, in that you're probably going to have a couple in the house. Like, if you have a couple kids, you're going to have maybe a couple Switches. And then you're also it's a good secondary console for gamers like us. Like, you'll have your main console, and then you'll have a Switch on the go. You might be less likely to have an Xbox and a PlayStation. You might fall in one of those two camps.
As 2 out of the 3 of us on this show have.
Yeah. The thing I would say, though, is one thing that I'm seeing, this is just anecdotally, is I feel like the difference is getting the consoles on the shelf. And like I said, anecdotally, I feel like it is easier to get an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S than it is to get a PlayStation right now. So it might be that we are seeing rough numbers in terms of demand of an Xbox right now, but I don't think we're seeing the true raw demand of a PS5, because I know that those are still very hard to get. So it might be just a situation that PlayStation cannot meet demand, where I feel like Xbox is getting closer to that level where they can.
I mean, it's hard to say, but, like, my point still stands that I don't think, even if you take the sales part aside from the argument, I think, like, neither of them is doing a job to push themselves as the better one between the two. Mm-hmm. I think they're both kind of in the stage of, like, we're just trudging right now because so much has been delayed and so much has been kind of pushing about. Like, again, the argument, if you're going with just first party games, well, yeah, Sony's winning. That's not a question. Mm-hmm. But the overall package is a different story. I don't think either of them are, like, the de facto, like, there's no question winner. You could probably lean to one over the other depending on your personal preferences, but I don't think there's, like, a consensus. This is the one. Like, PS4 was definitely the consensus in the last generation, just like 360 for a good chunk, and then the PS3 caught up, was a consensus for a while, just like the PS2 used to be the consensus pick for a while. So, like, this generation right now, we're, what, like 2-ish years in?
Yeah, I think it'll be 2 years in November, right?
And we don't have one pulling really away yet. Granted, we're now about to go through our first 12-month period of most countries finally getting rid of COVID restrictions in a lot of places. So we're starting to see, hopefully, a bit of more speed with things getting developed again. But who knows? Like, as it stands right now, neither of the two are differentiating themselves enough to kind of create a gap that's there beyond just sales numbers, which at this point, yeah, they're up 5 million, Sony is, but it doesn't look like they're up by that much when they're literally neck and neck every month now, especially to the year to date. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Xbox catches up with, like, as Game Pass comes out. And now that, like, we've seen what the PlayStation extra and premium tiers are, like, it kind of now lays everyone's cards out in terms of what each one is offering, and it'll be interesting to see what people go for.
Yeah, like, I think, honestly, both of them are in a good spot, but they have a lot of work that needs to be done. Obviously, Xbox needs to get their games a rolling, because they're falling pretty behind in that regard. And then Sony on the flip side needs to just kind of I Sony needs a win because right now everything they're doing seems to be not getting like the highest of praise from people anymore. Like they need VR2 to like really kill it to like get some stories here because well, are you telling me that you disagree when you literally trashed Extra the last week?
Oh no, sorry. So I'm still with my camp of I think Extra is.
Well, what I mean is like they're not doling anything out aside from games that are making people go, oh my god, this console's amazing. Like value wise, people are looking at it being like, eh.
But that's what PlayStation does. PlayStation has always presented themselves as that premium gaming experience, and that's what they're delivering again, right? Like there's rumors of God of War coming out this year. We've had Horizon, we've had Gran Turismo, we've had Sifu. Like we've had a ton of games.
Sure, but but you compare it to Xbox where they got the overwhelming value. That's why I don't think either of them are winning per se, because I don't think either of them have pulled away enough with their gimmick. Like Xbox Game Pass is starting to slow down a bit because they don't have as many games to throw up there. But Sony also, mostly because they're either in a dead period where just a lot of stuff's in development right now or delays, they're just not pushing out like that really like de facto like 6-month period that just kills it. They're not doing that yet. So yeah. Either way, like at some point, probably next year, one of them's gonna make that like major like half a year, even quarter, where just absolute banger after banger of like news piece or game release, just something to really keep this train going. And then we'll go, damn, they're having a good like X amount of months right now, and that's like that would definitely lead to the conversation changing a little bit. But right now, I don't feel either way like. I play both of them kind of interchangeably. Like, I'm not leaning towards one over the other right now.
Yeah, I see it. Like, you talk about Xbox having value, and it definitely does. Like, that Game Pass is a value so long as the games that they offer are things that appeal to you. And, like, I don't know. For me, this comes back to it. Like, maybe it's just the old man in me talking about, owning physical and stuff, but there's not, for me to go out and drop the cash on an Xbox to get Game Pass isn't quite there for me. So
I mean, I downloaded like, 3 games yesterday for it, so I guess it's working. Once again,
it's totally fine. Like that's awesome that it's working for you. It's that initial investment of getting an Xbox in order to get Game Pass, which is not doing.
All right, so you need to be able to get Game Pass in your local library, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like they both have their merits and their values and stuff. But I think PlayStation is doing what PlayStation does in terms of dropping massive blockbuster games that people talk about. And Xbox has a value where it's like, hey, $20 a month and you get all these games. That has the caveat of like, great, but there's nothing yet that's setting the world on fire.
No, but I don't think Sony is either. Like, I think we're at a point that like both of them are kind of just in like, I'm not saying either of them are doing bad. I think just none of them are like shining. I don't think that we're getting that. Like Horizon was good, but I think Horizon was a bit of a letdown for some. And I think as it stands, like God of War might turn things around, obviously. I mean, we don't know what's still coming out in the fall, potentially, that they might throw on us. So there's definitely time for them to kind of cap off this year specifically with some real big hits. But as it stands, like, I mean, we'll obviously know too with Stray. Stray is going to be a real good indicator of what things are going to start looking like for the next 6 months because that's day one PlayStation Extra. So now all of a sudden you can see this is what can drop for essentially like a very small fraction of a price on top of your Essential subscription. So we'll see. I don't like if you really had to put a gun to my head, I think PlayStation is winning, but not by that big a margin.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying this is a runaway. I'm just saying like I think that PlayStation still has gas in the tank. It's just it can't get to the race.
I think both of them have gas in the tank. We just can't tell how much Xbox has because we can't see what's there. We kind of have a pretty good idea how much gas PlayStation has. We're just waiting for them to kind of turn the ignition. Xbox, we're like, I know you have gas, but you're kind of you're hiding that information from me. Your friggin' indicator is broken. It's just sitting on there on empty. I know it's not empty. We're going forward.
Speaking of PlayStation Extra, Adam, I thought we could jump into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Like I said, there wasn't much going on, so we just wanted to get through that stuff real quick. But let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this. You've been playing PlayStation Extra. I have not, but the lists have come out now. It's been out for about a week or so. I thought we could jump in and go through a couple of the games that are listed. Maybe come up with a list of our 10 games that we think you should check out or that we would recommend with PlayStation Extra. We're not going to do the premium tier. We're just going to focus on the extra tier.
Well, if we did the premium tier, we could pretty much do a top 10 because there's not much in it.
Fair enough. So we came up with 10 games each that we think you should check out. We'll give a quick little synopsis of what the game's about or why you should check it out. And yeah, I think we have two different approaches to this. Adam, did you want to quickly go over first how you made your list or what your criteria was for that?
Yeah, we definitely took two different approaches, I think. Mine was simply like, if you're like, because my argument last week was simple. If you have no access to gaming or you didn't have most of the PlayStation library coming in, the extra tier has so much stuff for you. So I wanted to go like your Kotaku, your IGN, your Games Radar route of straight up, these are just the 10 best games that I think you can play right now. I didn't go with like, oh, you've probably already done this, or oh, I did avoid the ones that are in the PlayStation Plus collection because they seem to bleed into that list. So I made sure to not touch those because they technically are already part of Essential. So I left that alone. But I came up with 10 games that, as far as I see it, with a pretty good variety too, of like the 10 de facto games that are based on my taste mostly that I think people should take a look at.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of went a different route, and I kind of tried to avoid, not completely, there's some games I just wanted to put on the list just to make sure that they got some attention, but games that I thought either got mixed reviews that I thought that I thoroughly enjoyed, games that you may have overlooked, kind of being a niche area, just games that you might get lost in a list like this. And so I kind of want to go through and give them some highlights. There's a couple in here that, probably don't need the shout out, but I wanted to kind of put it on your radar so that you can think about it as well.
Oh, there'll be definitely a couple of games that, like, as soon as I get deeper into that library, I'll have some hidden gems for sure. Because just like Xbox, I found Crosscode on a whim. I found, oh my god, what was the name of that game that was just a really long thing about evading your taxes or something like that? Now I've forgotten, but it was a really funny game. But, like, there are some real gems if you just download something that you have no idea what it is. And that's what I hope to do with Extra 2, is to dive into a few games that I would never touch without, the price tag. So we'll see. Yes. But yeah, for now I wanted to go just overall, and then probably one of these days, if I can get a good list of like, maybe when I get a good list of 5, we'll come back here and do something. I'll definitely have a hidden gem list at some point, though.
Sounds like we have a new segment coming up. Yeah, so we'll kind of go through, and like, these are just games that we've played that we can attest that are good. So, are you doing yours in any particular order, or you just have a list?
I'm doing from 10 up, so.
Oh, you've actually got a ranked list. Okay,
I did.
Okay, cool. We'll go that route then. So let's start with your number 10.
All right. This one's going to be surprising people because I said I didn't like it that much, but I know it's a game that needs to be on the list regardless. So I went with number 10 being Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut specifically, I think is the one that's on the extra tier that I saw. And again, like, I enjoyed most of it until the story just kind of bored me and I just kind of got tired of the open world. But like, if you're into samurai games, especially like open world, like hack and slash, like your Assassin's Creed stuff, and if you're coming new to PlayStation, like if you came over from Xbox and you came into this, that game, for literally just an extra few bucks on top of your membership, that is a steal. Absolute steal for most gamers. And most gamers love that game. Like, I think I might be one of the only people in my immediate friends list, also you as well, Kaylan, who actually, like, I might be the only one who didn't end up finishing it. Because it's just for whatever reason, like, it was either burnout or just the story wasn't clicking. I think it might have been a bit of both. But,
did you become the ghost?
As soon as, like, the second part of the world unlocked, it was mostly when I started dying down.
Oh, you missed the best part.
Probably.
Yeah, you become a ghost and it becomes an awesome stealth game. Cool. For me, I put This War of Mine.
That's a good one.
It's a game that I played. It's a really good one. It's sort of a side-scrolling strategy game. Basically, you're in like this war-torn country, and you have to make like decisions in order to kind of keep a little safe house going. Really bleak and really depressing, but really poignant. And the guys at that studio are guys and gals are really cool people who support the cause and have been kind of doing a lot of charity work with what's going on in Ukraine. So
it's sort of like a Last of Us game, like that kind of atmosphere, but it's more of a strategy survival, like keep yourself alive thing rather than like combat.
Yeah, there's like there's very little combat, but it's like hard choices, and like there's things that you're like, oh, you'll have situations where you want to do something nice for someone, but you also have to look at like for the greater good and stuff. So Really, really interesting game that if you haven't checked out, I would recommend.
There are definitely a lot of games that I've seen on that list that are, if you want to go for short short games with real emotion, there are quite a few that they put on that service.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, number 9, I went with one that I reviewed not too long ago on this channel, but Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that game is a fantastic addition. Definitely a bit of a gem that people kind of missed out on because I guess the stink of Avengers kind of put them off the trail for a little bit. I think also people watched that initial trailer and were a little bit unsure of it, whereas I looked at it and went, oh, I know this is going to be fun. So, again, did a good job. The combat, I think we both described it we both kind of think the combat needed work, but I didn't think that that's what sold the game, whereas I really loved the way the characters were done. The storytelling was very good. They definitely had the very comical, lighthearted feel that series does. The music was a great touch. The soundtrack is fantastic. Even the fake band that they created to go with Star-Lord.
So good.
It's so I still listen to it on the regular.
So good.
It's so good. And they do just a pretty good job overall of taking a license that generally most people don't know, but now they do through the movies and love, and just continue to move forward with it and kind of put a bit of a spin on it. And also bring in some more stuff that we didn't get to see before, like Fing Fang Foom and stuff like that.
Yeah, they definitely made it their own. I think the best part of that game is the characters and the dialogue. I think the combat, I would rank the things that I like. It'd be the characters and the dialogue. Second would be the combat. The combat's okay, but gets repetitive. And then the story. The story kind of, I don't know. I didn't find that the villain was that compelling or anything like that, but it's fine. It's a good game. It definitely is a good game.
I like the villain without spoiling anything, just because of the way that it was done towards that sympathetic villain, and also one that that you got to do something about. It's not just evil for sake of being evil. It's no, we got to help. We got to deal with this.
Yeah. My number 9 is Moving Out. This is a small couch co-op game in the vein of an Overcooked or something like that. What you are is you are a moving company, and so you have to move furniture for people out of their homes into the car, into the truck, and there's a shenanigans ensues. There's no sort of you could throw a couch through a window kind of thing. It's a quite funny game. It's a sort of a co-op physics style game. Really fun. Definitely one that you can play with your significant other, friends, and definitely have a moment of yelling at each other. So Moving Out would be my number 9.
Yeah, it's done by the same people who do Overcooked, and they always do fantastic with those games.
Is it? I thought it was someone else.
Yeah, it's the same team.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Moving Out.
For me, number 8, I went a little bit different direction here. I went to the strategy sphere, and certainly when Marvel's Midnight Suns comes out, I'll be seeing how these guys do, but I put XCOM 2 at number 8. I think there is, at least in my opinion, no better strategy game out there. If you're not, I'm not talking in the vein of a Civ or a Total War. I'm talking more of just a turn-based strategy, almost like a Final Fantasy Tactics. XCOM is one of those games that's it's a genre that I don't play a lot of, but XCOM does it so well that I can't not love it. Mm-hmm. And the aesthetic is great. Obviously the aliens invading you, trying to take over. XCOM 1 was the invasion. Now XCOM 2 is they won, and now you're trying to take the world back. And they do so many improvements to it. They made the combat a lot more seamless, gave you a lot more abilities to work with. They gave you a lot more weaponry, a lot more research to do. They definitely do it to a point that no matter what difficulty you're playing on, even on easy, it can still be a handful, especially if you're a newer player, because there's so much you got to think about doing. And it's not just about just making sure you're overpowered in the battlefield, but you got to make sure that you're still keeping up with, making sure your airship's all good to go. Your spaceship is all ready to go. If your base is all set, you got to make sure that you're prepared to keep up with the aliens before they, create the giant death ray or whatever they're working on that's going to destroy the planet on you guys. So it's definitely a game that challenges you no matter what skill level you play at. And then obviously as soon as you get better and better at the game, you can go in the harder difficulties and hate yourself, I guess. Especially with Iron Man mode, which is hey, you're going to autosave constantly and we're going to delete those autosaves. And if something happens, you can't change it. So I hope you don't get attached to people. And especially in XCOM, you really shouldn't, because XCOM soldiers can die real fast if you're not careful.
Didn't they let you make characters that are family and friends? You can make your own characters.
Oh, you can name them whatever you want. So, you could create you could create your loved one and be like, what did you die from? Oh, I kind of missed a 91% chance to shoot the snake at point blank range, and then she just grabbed you and squeezed you to death.
My number 8 is Valiant Hearts. This is a small Ubisoft art house kind of game.
We want to talk about the short emotional games.
Yeah. This is one I played back in like the mid 2010s, the mid-teens, I guess. It's a short game. It takes place in World War One, and you have 4 characters, and you kind of see like their stories through the game. It's really cool. The art style is really neat. Fun game if you're into history, if you're into World War One. And it's not dark, like it's not.
No, but it's
grim.
Pretty real.
Yeah, it doesn't sugarcoat it, but it's not grim. It takes it from a light perspective. But yeah, it's a good game with a good story. So Valiant Hearts.
Let's see, number 7. Probably the oldest game that I'll have on this list. I mean, technically it could have belonged in the premium category, but because it was a remaster, I put it up here. The only Final Fantasy game I'll put on this list, because the remakes still aren't there yet, the Final Fantasy remaster of 10 and 10-2. I think that if there's any JRPG you should be playing on the service, all the good ones aren't on this list yet, so 10 and 10-2 remaster was the best one I could come up with, because Persona's still missing there for reasons why I don't... Actually, I think Persona's on the... I don't think it's on the collection anymore. I think they took it off. But either way,
yeah, I don't think it ever. I don't know if it was.
Final Fantasy also might be 15. Mixing stuff up for all I know.
15 was on the collection.
15 is on the collection. Yeah. But like 10 and 10-2, I know a lot of people hate on 10-2, but 10 is fantastic, very beloved game in the Final Fantasy series. For a lot of fans, like the last bastion of a really good JRPG series for them. So it's definitely been it's been a struggle for 20 years. So at the very least, if you've never played a Final Fantasy game before, that's usually the one I direct people to, because 10 it's pretty easy to get a hold of in terms of, the story is not that crazy. The graphics are like that good enough blend of like, it's not too blocky, so it doesn't look ugly and old. And there's voice acting, so you do have the emotion to it. So, and the gameplay itself is fine. Like, it's actually a pretty easy game too. It's very easy from a skill level standpoint of approachment. So I think that's always the one that I try to point people to. Whereas, like, if you get into 15, it's a little more, like, hit A to win, like, combat-based. If you go to 12, it's pretty boring because you just kind of stand there and just watch the characters do stuff like as an MMO. So unless you're into 14, I guess you could like it. But I think 10 has that good balance of being approachable, but still has enough depth of it because of it still being in the old-school turn-based combat.
Yeah, I definitely one worth checking out. I know that one's one that was pretty, divisive for fans, though, right?
10, not that I remember. Like 10-2 only was just because it was like the first sequel that ever got given to a game, and people were pretty apprehensive about it. Mostly because, well, it was a game that was kind of designed for a female audience, and I'm sure a lot of guys didn't enjoy that. So, whereas I love the fuck out of that game, because that game decided to be like a lot more anime, and I'm down for more anime.
Yeah, for sure. For me, number 7, Sniper Elite 4. So staying with the military history kind of thing, I'm a big history fan, so these kind of games they get a little bit of an edge. Sniper Elite 4 is a really cool game. You are a sniper in World War II during the Italian campaign. And so what you do is you get dropped off into these open world levels. So once again, kind of like the Tomb Raider-esque scenario where you get this area to go play and explore, and you can stealth creep through it, and you're just taking out Nazis and Italian soldiers during the Italian campaign. And so clever ways of doing it, you're kind of creeping around, and you can kind of use your sniper rifle to trigger events. Like, you have to be cautious of sound, you have to be cautious of when they're looking at you. So you might be waiting for an airplane to fly overhead, and then that's when you take your shot, or you're going to be next to a motor that's kind of popping as you take your shot. And so you have to time it for sound. And if you get on the higher level difficulties, you have to take into account wind speed, bullet drop, that kind of stuff. I'm not at that level, but it's a fun sniping stealth game that if you are looking for a stealth game, very loosely in the vein of something like a Splinter Cell, this might scratch that itch.
You can shoot people in the balls.
You can do that too. You get some X-ray kind of Mortal Kombat-esque X-ray kill shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's number 7 is Sniper Elite 4. All right, go ahead.
Number 6 for me, started to get a little more fun again. South Park, there's a couple of these where I pair stuff because you can't do one without the other. So I put South Park Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole. Because I do think both of those games are way better than I think they had any business of being. They are so goddamn entertaining.
I put Stick of Truth as my next one as well, so I figure we can talk about these in general. But I skipped the Fractured But Whole. You can interchange them for either one. They're both great, but I find personally that Stick of Truth is the better of the two games.
It's a hard call. Like, I honestly would have to go back and replay both of them because there's been a lot of distance in between it. I think I would maybe lead Fracture But Whole just because they improved the combat more. They fleshed it out a bit. Yeah. So I could possibly lean in that direction. Although I think Stick of Truth probably has the edge in story by just a little bit. And also
what I would kind of...
It's really goes either way. Like, but both of them, like, I even have to explain like why you should, like, it's a South Park RPG. Like, how is that not interesting to you? If you don't like RPGs, I guess that's the only thing that stops you. But like, man, you know what you're walking into with South Park.
Yeah.
There's a level where you're in Canada and it goes like 16-bit. How can you not be interested?
It's so good. Yeah. So I'd say either one, but yeah, my number 6 was South Park Stick of Truth.
All right.
Was that your 6? Was that your...
Yeah, that was my 6. So I guess I might as well jump up to 5 then.
Yeah. Were they... Oh, you put both 6?
Yeah, I put, like, I honestly don't think there was any point in separating them.
Why can't you follow instructions, Adam?
Because I don't care. Look, I take the Barbosa level of things. It's like, look, the rules are more like guidelines, you know?
Fair enough, sir. Go ahead with your number 5.
Number 5, the only really off the board one that I probably will have here. I mean, it's not to say that it's off the board. A lot of people liked it, but I think a lot of people would think of other games before this. But Celeste,
okay, yeah.
Which I thought was easily one of the best indie games I think I've played ever. Mm-hmm. And it's simply a very bare bones puzzle game, like puzzle platformer. And just because of like how calming it is, despite all the frustration it gives you, because some of those levels are so goddamn hard and so pinpoint accurate, but it feels so goddamn good even when you fail. So you kind of accept that. And also, like, it actually has like an okay story to go with it too. It's not just, can you beat this ridiculously pinpoint accurate hard level we threw in front of you? It's like, no, there's actually a bit of a emotional kind of like backstory to the whole thing. So that's definitely something people should check out. I mean, granted, you probably could just buy that game because it's not that expensive compared to some of the other ones we're putting on these lists, but hey.
For me, my number 5 is Ghost Runner. This is a first-person cyberpunk. I don't know how you'd call it.
It's like a first-person like ninja game. Like it's like a platformer meeting like hack and slash. That's like pretty hard too.
It's a very hardcore. It's like a very hard game in terms of like you die a lot in this game, but it's nice because it's got quick reloads. So like you are not waiting to reload. Like you died, you come right back. Levels are short. Usually they like if you can get through them, they're maybe 10 seconds long. They're not super drawn out, so but it takes you a long time to get through it. You're kind of ricocheting bullets with your gun, with your sword. It's kind of like if you ever played Katana Zero, it's like that in first person. Really fun game. I don't think a lot of people picked it up just because it had some issues, and it is an intimidating game. It is a lot of fun though if you check it out. So
yeah, it's like Mirror's Edge and Super Hot combined with like Samurai or nuts like Samurai. I guess Samurai Ninja elements. Like it's very much like that kind of style.
Yes. Cool. All right, that's my number 5.
Number 4. Now we just get into like the high tier stuff. Number 4, Red Redemption 2. That's kind of a no brainer. I mean, if it's on the service, that's a top 5 game period in that generation. You take Rockstar when it wasn't making like 10,000 different versions of GTA 5. That was them at their best. Now, granted, even at their best, like Red Dead Redemption 2 still has faults, but it's so 100%. Damn good that you can kind of look past it because it's just so well done in terms of its story.
They made an artistic decision in that game in terms of going for that hyper realism that I wasn't a big fan of. Like, I felt it went too realistic in terms of like you have to collect everything individually and there's a motion for everything, and like I didn't love that. But yeah, it has a great story. It definitely has that cowboy feel. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, there are some choices that were made that don't necessarily make it a bad game, but it just choices that
Yeah,
I would
if
not
you're
have made
okay
personally.
with handling like the lots of wait time while you like travel between places to get to the next mission, you're fine. Because every bit of major content, albeit like maybe 5 to 10% of the entire story campaign, is
Mhm.
really well done, and the combat
Yeah,
is fluid. It is perfectly put together,
yeah, the gunplay is the best.
and for its time, like it was really well put together graphically too. Even on PS4, it ran amazingly well for the kind of graphic level it was pushing out. It was definitely a precursor to what we were going to start seeing with the PS5.
Yeah. All right, my number 4 is Overcooked 2. I am a huge Overcooked fan. It's one of the few games that I can easily convince my wife to play, but I can also quickly convince her not to play with me, um, simply because my Gordon Ramsay comes out, and we've had times where we've had to say, "Okay, we need to stop. We are saying things we are going to regret."
Why didn't you cook the
And
meat? It's fucking raw.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've had moments where we are like, we are saying things that we are going to regret, so we are going to stop here. But it's a lot of fun, especially like if you have a significant other or a friend that you want to play it and they're not necessarily the biggest video game people. It's very approachable and very easy to play, that like you can get someone on board to play without them having to know a lot of what to do. And it's just fun. Like it's a fun little game that, you know, you do get frustrated and it sometimes can cause some stress and some conflict. But great game nonetheless. My wife and I platinumed this one and we bought all the expansion packs. It's a staple in our house.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely need to get a crew of friends to play that because it's one of those games that like you need a full group to make the chaos just absolutely insane in that game.
I find two is a good, like the
Two's a
one
good
gripe with that.
amount, but
Two's
you
fine.
got to think that four is just an absolute dumpster fire.
Oh, two is I think almost too chaotic for me. But there are some levels that almost require you to have more people. Like it's designed that
I
way.
like
So
chaos; it's fine.
perfect. Well, then there you go. All right.
Going further down here, we go to number 3. The last point that we get into the third party lineup before I finish off with the first party. At least I think so. Let me quickly. Yes, okay, I did. Okay, there's a part of me that's like, do I want to say that out loud? And then all of a sudden, number 2, here's Resident Evil or some, I don't know, some random shit. No. Number 3 was Control Ultimate Edition. That game is incredible. That like I was really nervous going into that game because I thought it's gonna be like a horror-esque, like mysterious, like thriller, like over the top, like crazy visually like game. And within like an hour, I'm like, oh, this is like Saints Row 4 when you're a superhero flying around the map and just throwing shit at people, except the atmosphere is so goddamn mysterious and cool.
Yeah.
And like visually it's so well put together. Like whoever designed like the entire aesthetic of this game did amazing because it is so well done and unique. And again,
The
like the voice
story's
acting in the
bonkers
story
though.
is almost doesn't matter because the gameplay is the star there because it's just so perfectly optimized. Like everything feels fantastic. You feel like a telekinetic god. Like this is what a Magneto game should look like, basically.
Yeah. It has the story wise it has a Kojima vibe to it where it's just like I have no idea what the hell's going on, but I'm having fun anyways. Like the gameplay carries that game. Like the way that they use the weapon is really neat. Flying around, just whipping stuff around is great. And there's a particular level that I mean we've talked about it before, but there's a level that when you get there, you know it.
Take control. That's all.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Number 3 for me was Everybody's Golf. This is another one that may have flown under the radar, but is a fantastic game. I'm kind of weirdly putting an asterisk on this because PlayStation was saying they were shutting down the servers on this, which I don't quite understand. So we'll see.
Well, they got
But
like 7 Hot Shots games on the service now. So
yeah. So Everybody's Golf is it's a golf game. Like it is not something like What the Golf or something like that. It is a real golf game, but it's accessible to players. A lot of fun to play. My brother-in-law, excuse me, my brother-in-law and I have played this game together. We, you know, jokingly say we've got a tee off and like my sister and my wife are like, "You guys are going golfing?" And we're like, "No, we're just playing video games." And we'll play it, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of cool events there. It's a fun, easy, accessible game to play, and it was my first Hot Shots game, but I really like it. So
Yeah,
I
it's
would
basically like their
advise
answer to Mario Golf.
almost, but yes, yeah.
Like,
It doesn't have
like
like
at least
the,
in that vein of like it's not like the super realistic PGA Tour games. This is like
no.
a more like like beginner friendly, approachable one that's not going to like demand you have to play like with the utmost of professionalism.
Yeah, it's not like Lee Carvello's putting challenge kind of thing. So.
No, but it's not Bone Storm either.
It is not Bone Storm either. Adam, you're number 2.
All right, so we're getting to the creme de la creme. Number 2, the complete edition of Horizon Zero Dawn. I think I don't need to speak too much about that. If you haven't gotten to Horizon yet, because obviously you're coming to this console fresh, you owe it to yourself. Horizon's one of the very first things you should be touching on that console. So, I mean, again, like, it's so crazy going back thinking about how nervous I was about that game because I thought it looked so amazing. But new IP always is like a hit or miss. It's either going to be so good or it's going to be so dull and boring. And I looked at that initially and went, man, this looks like it's going to be so cool. But I'm so worried it's going to fall flat on its ass. And then it came out, I'm like, okay, I love this world. I wish I could spend more time here. And the combat was really, really well done, albeit I didn't use all of it because I didn't care about things like tripcasters, but hey, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the aesthetic, again, like similar to what Control was, like Horizon is such a unique looking game that it stands out on its own already. And story-wise, again, like a lot of the games that we've talked about, like, it's hit or miss. Like, some people really attach to the story, some people didn't as much. It was more just the entire world that they love being in. I think Horizon is just like Sony at its best, showing like it's not just all about, you know, our 25-year-old franchise that we're going to keep digging out one more time to kind of make a quick buck here. Whereas they went, hey, we got some pretty crazy ideas if you want to take a shot at us.
Yeah. Definitely recommend Horizon Zero Dawn. It's one of my favorite games. I've got the collector's editions for both games actually here, so really fun game that I really like. Both of them platinum. Definitely recommend. My number 2 is Days Gone. This is probably one of the bigger Sony first party titles, but it's one that I feel like got a bit of a bum rap from reviews, and it may have turned people off from trying it out, but it is a really good game. The biggest gripe I think it has is that it's too long in the tooth. Both the story drags on quite a bit, and it takes a while for you to get to the point where you are getting to the meat and potatoes of that game in terms of using, like, going after the hordes and stuff. But it's got some really neat mechanics. Like, you're driving around on your motorcycle and like you get invested in that bike and you're trying to find parts for it. You're trying to find gas for it. Like, it's really cool. I really like that game. The environment's really neat. I feel like that was one of those games that needed a little bit of editing in terms of story and just kind of shortening it down. One of the problems I think that reviewers had is that when they were doing it, it's a very, very long game that just has several times where you're like, oh, we're wrapping up, and it just keeps going. And I think that put a sour taste, but it's got some really neat mechanics, some really fun story. It's a cool environment, cool world. Little cringy on the dialogue a little bit, but I think that's a game that the more people that play it, it gets more and more positive feedback. Like, it's one that people get pleasantly surprised by. So I would definitely check out Days Gone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have my qualms with it, but I know people like it. Some people didn't. It did obviously pretty well for PC, so clearly there was an audience there for it. So yeah, it's something to check out. My number 1, I mean, I've already talked about the first party lineup. I mean, there are other games that could have fallen in this place, but Uncharted's on the PlayStation Plus collection. God of War is on the PlayStation Plus collection, so they don't count. But what isn't there, and again, it's another pairing, Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. You can't go wrong with that.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
You know, when we had a history, too, of, like, so many tie-in games, movie tie-in, show tie-in, like, so many of them were just, like, C-level games constantly.
Spider-Man had a pretty good track record for those tie-in games. Like, of all the tie-ins.
Yeah, there was a period for a while that it wasn't.
Think of the IPs that we've had that have had crappy tie-in games. Spider-Man, I'd say, would probably be one of the more consistent. Like, if you had to say, like, which one would you roll the dice on, I'd say Spider-Man.
Yeah, and there was still some rough stuff after, like, Spider-Man 2 And then there was a rough patch of like, they're not Iron Man bad, but they could be worse.
Shattered Dimensions was pretty good, wasn't it?
I honestly never liked any of those like off-brand ones. Those never really went well for me. But obviously, going back to our top one here now with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, like both of those games, tremendous, absolutely tremendous. If you were ever worried about a Marvel-sponsored video game having like a little bit less in the storyline, they made that pretty clear in the first game that was not going to be a problem. They did a fantastic job with that story. In fact, they basically at the end of the game said, nothing's off the table. Hope you guys are ready because we ain't pulling punches if we need to. And with Miles Morales, they tackle even further, taking a little bit more of a racial look at things and obviously taking, an interesting look with characters that we normally don't get to take a look at because they aren't getting advertised nearly as much as obviously with Peter Parker and the usual villains. And everything, like, I honestly don't have much to say about that game that's negative. Like, some of the complaints I've seen friends talk about is like, oh, well, some of the side quests are a little bit unnecessary. I'm like, yes, but you don't have to do them, so that's fine. Like, the main quest line itself, really good. The combat, really good. I have no problem traveling in the open world from point to point because web slinging in that game is so goddamn satisfying to the point that my girlfriend sat down for like 20 minutes straight and just web slinging. Didn't even want to do the story because she just enjoyed it that much because it feels so good. Just going through the city from like high-rise buildings and diving all the way down and just swooping right back up again. Like, they did such a fantastic job to pull the old IGN card of making you feel like you're Spider-Man.
Except Screwball. Screwball sucked.
You take what you get.
No, she was annoying. I also felt that the DLC for Spider-Man wasn't super amazing either. Like, I felt that was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, but thankfully, you don't got to pay for it here, so
it was a great game. No, like a great game, but yeah, just putting those grapes on that one. For me, number one may not be as much of an obscure pick as other ones, but I just wanted to make sure that it gets some love because I think some people may have overlooked it. And that's the 2016 Doom. That game is amazing. There are so many ways to describe it. I've heard it described as you are the final boss and the NPCs and the enemies are the heroes trying to defeat you. And it is awesome. It is the best soundtrack or best metal album that comes with a free game. The way I describe it to friends, it is an orchestra of death and you are the conductor and it is amazing. Just going in there, ripping and tearing. It's so much fun. You go on that is a full true power fantasy in the purest sense. So yeah, Doom 2016, worth checking out. Adam, wrapping up this, I just had a fun little idea. Is there a game on the list that you haven't played but you maybe want to put like a maybe one that you're gonna get to? For me, the one that stands out, there's a game called Foreclosed, I think. Kind of a cyberpunk-esque comic book game. It's one of those I've heard mixed things, but it might be worth checking out. So I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it's going to be good, but it might be one that at least has my attention in terms of what it does. Is there one that stands out for you?
Probably Death Stranding because that's the game that I'm like, man, I have no idea if I'm going to love or hate this one. So thankfully, with it being on the service, it gives me a chance to try something that I normally wouldn't. I mean, there's other ones out there, like currently I'm playing Mafia Definitive Edition. That will probably be a review for next week, so I've gotten the chance to go through that. Demon Souls, like I said earlier at the top of the show, is something I'm going to take a look at. I'm trying to think, what was the other one that I got recently? Oh, The Artful Escape. I definitely am looking forward to, because that was a big thing that a lot of people said was one of the better indie games of that year. I think it was from last year.
Yes, that's correct.
So there's one more. Oh, Returnal, duh. So there's definitely a few games already that I'm ready to dive into, and there's still a bunch down the line that as soon as I keep peeking a little bit more, and obviously Stray, when that gets released day one, there's definitely going to be some stuff that I'm very curious to see how it's going to go. And much like Game Pass, there's going to be a few games that I'm going to be like, okay, I don't know what you are, but let's see a trailer of you. Oh, that actually looks kind of neat. Let's try that. Oh my God, this game is awesome. So I'm hoping we get some of those too. I just don't know what they are yet.
Cool. All right, Adam, let's you've got an Untimely review for us for this week. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I'm assuming you played this on Game Pass?
Yes, it did.
All right, let's go. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are not influential enough nor big enough to get games ahead of time, so we review them on our own dime and on our own time or on our own Game Pass membership, depending on how it goes. This week, we've got a review for you for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Adam, tell us a little bit about this game.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And okay, so I got that review right out of the way. So let's move on to trophy stuff. No,
Your efficiency is unmatched.
Look, I honestly cannot gush about this game enough because realistically, like I can sum this up as simple as possible. If you like Turtles in Time, this is better. That's the best way I can say it. If you love the old school side scroller beat 'em ups from like the Super Nintendo days, if you're an old man like I am or an old man like you are,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
it does everything right. The combat is better. Obviously, it runs better. It has a little bit more content to it, and they do a lot of good job of doing callbacks and stuff. You know, they have a boss where you got to throw the enemies into the camera so it causes damage. They do that stuff. God. You have the dinosaurs. You got all the crazy, foot soldiers that just have all the weird little quirks to them. Just everything's there, and then the addition of having to be able to play Swiss Splinter, April, and then once you beat the game the first time, you unlock Casey Jones, so there's more content there. And it's 6-player co-op, which I cannot wait to try. Like I only played solo so far. I just recently played it over the weekend and got a solo run done. That's why I'm reviewing it now, because it'll be a while before I end up playing a full run of it again until I get a group together to play. I don't even know if I want to play like a half map. I want 6. I want to see just absolute chaos on that screen, because I know it's going to be just an absolute clusterfuck, and I'm here for that because I don't think friendly fire is on, but I kind of almost want it to be.
Now, Adam, like you played this on Game Pass, so it's gonna have a different feel. But I know the game is going for, I think it's about $35 here in Canada. I've also heard that the game is relatively short. Like, do you think that this is a game, like, is it priced correctly for what you're getting? Like, obviously the game is good, but is it maybe too short, or is it overpriced maybe, or what do you think to that argument?
That depends on if you're a replayer. If you have like a group of friends and it's something you want to get into, if it's something that you're okay with like playing, especially if you're a guy that likes trying to get better in speed running these things, this is a perfect game for that kind of stuff. If you're just looking for a one and done, you can wait. That's also what Game Pass can help out with. But like if you're thinking of one and doneing it and you don't have a group to play with to really incentivize it, you could wait for this to go $20, no prob. Like okay. I honestly think if I paid full price for it, I'd still think it's worth the value because it is a really good game. But I also can note that, like, hey, if it's just you to play a game solo, you could be fine with waiting a little while.
So you mentioned quickly, like, you get the Casey Jones for a second playthrough. What's the replayability like for this game? Do you find that there is going to be a lot of replayability, or is it pretty much once you've seen everything, you've seen it?
Depends on how often you're playing, I think. I think this is one of those games that, like with my immediate group that I play with once a week, we have a mishmash of games that we go back and forth from. Like, we have Killing Floor, we have Golf with Friends, we have Deep Rock Galactic, we have Fall Guys. I think this is a perfect game to add into a lineup of things that you play with friends once in a blue moon. If you're looking to play this like consistently for like a month, I don't think you're going to be able to do that unless your intention is to be a speedrunner. Like, this is a game that eventually you'll be like, all right, I can do something else. But like, this is a game that definitely is a callback to the games that we remember being as fun as they are, and a lot of games have tried to recapture that and just haven't, whereas this one I feel like did that and more. It basically took something that I liked and made it better, which is pretty rare because more often than not, I'm hoping for something to be close to Turtles in Time, whereas Shredder's Revenge basically took Turtles in Time and like turned a 10 into an 11.
Mm-hmm. You've now got me shopping and looking at Arcade 1-Up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles console cabinets.
That's definitely a thing that's going to happen too. Although that'd have to be a special bill if they're going to fit it in for 6 people.
No, I'm looking at the Turtles in Time one.
The Turtles in Time one. Sorry. I mean, again, Shredder's Revenge though. I would not be surprised if somebody makes a cabinet of that too, because that would be a perfect game for that purpose.
Yeah.
If arcades were still all the rage today, like that, this would definitely work.
Yeah. So Adam, as you know, we review games on a 6-point scale. So 1 being absolutely terrible, 2 being bad, but all bad. 3 being it's okay, but it's on the bad side, and then reverse 4 is it's okay, but it's better. 4 being, it's a good game, and then 6 being it's amazing. Where would you put this one?
Oh, it's a 6 without a question.
Cool.
I honestly, if I sit here, I don't even know if there's really a flaw that I can think of right now. Like, I'm trying to really think. No, like, I guess apart from these soldiers that shoot plungers at you, they're kind of annoying. But that's like the one flaw I can think of. But that's mostly my own problem, not the game's problem. So, but no, like
Awesome.
everything's done right. Honestly, I think the soundtrack is even better. Actually, the final 2 chapters have amazing boss themes for Shredder. They're fantastically put together pieces of music. One is a very hip hoppy, and the other is really like metal. So both of them have a nice like difference to them, and they're both fantastic like atmosphere setters. So they do that well. The fact that most of the game features characters are for bosses that I don't even know of tells you that they dug pretty deep into the Turtles lore to pull out enough bosses to make all these levels work. You do have you do have the usuals of Bebop and Rocksteady. You have the Baxter, that was the original first boss in Turtles in Time, the flying bug with the cannon.
Yep.
They definitely pull a lot of things up, but they also pulled a bunch of stuff that I'm like, I don't know what you are. And I hate you because you're annoying me in this fight, but I'm going to remember you now.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, that's definitely one that's on my radar to pick up and check it at some point. So, cool. Adam, let's wrap up the show with our weekly game, Trophy Stumpers. So if this is your first time checking us out, we play a little game here where I give Adam 10 trophies, and he has to guess the game as quickly as possible, and he gets 2 guesses. Adam, are you ready to go?
I don't know. I'm on a losing streak.
See if you can recover, okay?
Okay. You're not going to give me one that I'm going to be mad at the end, are you?
We'll see. New Kid on the Block.
New Kid on the Block. Okay.
Yep. Archaeologist.
Okay.
Face Hoff.
Face Hoff?
Yep.
How's that spelled?
Face and then Hoff.
Oh, kind of like what's his name? Hasselhoff.
Yep,
Yeah.
Hoff. Yep.
Okay.
Irritable Bowels.
That's a trophy name.
Yep. And 2 girls, 1 stick.
Oh my god. All right, you've pulled a real interesting one out, that's for sure.
All right, so first 5: New Kid on the Block, Archaeologist, Face Hoff, Irritable Bowels, 2 girls, 1 stick.
Now I'm gonna be mad if I don't get this one right because I'm like, man, this is a cool ass trophy list. I gotta know.
Yeah. Any sort of guesses so far? We're at 5.
Oh god, not a fucking clue.
Daddy Issues. Gingivitis.
Oh my god. Oh, I think I know what this is now.
What do you think?
Since I haven't used my guess up, is this South Park Stick of Truth for the Gingy?
This is South Park Stick
Oh
of
my
Truth.
god. Yeah, that makes perfect sense now.
I'm surprised it took us this long to get there. They're so good.
Well, again, like, because I'm not a trophy hunter myself, like, it is one of those things of like, it's more of just pushing things together. And as soon as like now I know, okay, they're going like almost offensively with like with these trophies. Okay, well, there's really one of 2 things this is gonna be, and I got 2 guesses for South Park games. I got to get one of them.
Well, I figured the stick one would have gotten you, so would have been the clue.
What were the other ones that you had left on the list?
Canadian Handshake.
Oh, well, that would have basically confirmed it.
Yeah. No Child Left Behind.
Okay.
And Dragon Wrath.
Oh, the last 2 wouldn't have helped, so thank God I got it sooner.
Oh, dude. So, like, the trophy list here, it was just there's so many. So, like, there's New Kid on the Block, First Day in South Park, which is a giveaway, KKK Hero.
Oh, my
Elven
God.
Hero. Nonconformist. Daywalker.
Nonconformist is so great, too.
Inside Joke. Yep. There's a whole bunch here. Yeah, so the Face Hoff was you defeated Princess Kenny while looking like David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like, what the hell is Hoff gonna have to do with this? And then as soon as you started listing more trophies, I'm like, okay, well, this is a really dumb game. The hell did David Hasselhoff do? And as soon as you said the Gingivitis, I'm like, okay, so that's definitely led me to every like South Park hole I can possibly get into.
They have like trophies like Heisenberg, Perverted. What's some of the other ones? The what are the other ones? The
I mean, there should have been a trophy called My Eyes because there's the one boss battle where you see your de facto parents like in bed having sex.
Yeah, that's the perverted trophy.
Oh God, they could have they could have done better with that trophy name.
The Canadian handshake is you farted on people 100 times. Yeah, it's good.
Well, you got to blame Canada for that one.
Yeah. Anyways, Adam, that's been our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed the show and you want to get more, you can find us wherever you get your podcast by searching for PixelPlay Podcast or on YouTube, PixelPlay Podcast. If you want to give me some tips for Elden Ring, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at PixelPlayCast. We are also on Instagram, PixelPlayCast. Or if you want to give me some hints and tips as I'm playing, you could reach out to us on our Discord. We've got the link tree below. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can go there. Otherwise, it's on our profile. So reach out to us there, and we'd love to hear from you guys if you have tips or tricks, or if you want to give us some trophies for Trophy Stumpers. If you think you could stump Adam, send us over some suggestions. Adam, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I can't fart on cue, so I can't South Park this very well.
Oh, please don't do it. No, we're going to skip that. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to wrap it up there before Adam gets one in the chamber. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye for now.